move on then to Kat's going to talk next, I think, right after, about the experience she's had with her child at her school. And Kat's a fine mover in tonight's gathering, so we're going to get around.
Good evening, everyone. Obviously, I'm Kat. I'm mother of a 13-year-old girl who, along with her peers, has been targeted quite deliberately by the Australian Social Change Program, which includes the Safe Schools program. I don't know if any of you have teens, but my daughter and her friends are quite obsessed with the whole identity politics that we've got going at the moment, and I spend a lot of time talking to her about different messages she's getting from school. This year, however, we're homeschooling and lobbying against the Safe Schools program and gender theory in Australian schools. We've spent the last 6 to 12 months sharing information with other parents as we've managed to talk with them coming on board in a group team at Healthy Start, as well as doing YouTube videos, tweeting, anything we can do to spread the word. For 8 months, I tried to get a picture of exactly what sexuality ideology they plan to use and what resources they would use with my daughter before finally giving up and withdrawing her from the local government school. The first announcement that our school would participate was in April 2016, and we were at that point just considering membership. In the final weeks of 2016, I had asked a number of times in writing as well as in person for this information. It was not until I complained to the Education Directorate and to the school about the lack of communication that I finally received a response to my very specific questions. I'm not sure how transparent your school's P&Cs is, but ours was buried in communication in the attachments on the emails for the meetings. So no one actually knew that there was a Safe Schools community meeting on, and it was just lucky that 2 community members that I contacted managed to come along on very short notice. But the P&C had already made up its collective mind to recommend Safe Schools membership to the school board. They had read the children's stories in Blues to Rainbows. This was the sum total of the committee's argument for the program. The principal's main concern was that non-membership would make the school homophobic. Myself and the others who went along in opposition presented the misleading research that's part of the Blues to Rainbows document. We pointed out that the writers admit that they used the most extreme examples in that document to get sympathy for the program. We gave examples of some awful heteronormative bullying that happened here in the ACT as a result of the focus on gender and sexuality. We gave evidence of how difficult the concepts in the program were and how there was every chance it would do more emotional damage to the children. And despite all of this, the P&C informed the board that while some were a little concerned, the P&C supported Safe Schools membership. So my questions continue. How and what would be communicated to the children and when, particularly on the topic of transgenderism, which the P&C seemed to be quite focused on. About this time, I discovered that both the Director of Sexual Health and Family Planning and the ACT Safe Schools Project Manager were close online friends of one Ros Ward. Aaron Smith has also holds some rather extreme feminist ideals, so I decided to avoid approaching them for information at that particular point in time. So while waiting for a response from the school, I started working on the program myself. I worked all through these student lessons, trying to pretend I was a teen. I accessed the links. You can imagine some of the hot links that I came across going click, click, click. I did as much of the professional learning module for teachers as I could get my hands on, and was doing this at the very real manipulation method within the program became apparent, and my own opposition reached losing sleep point. I expanded my inquiry to the school to include the policies they plan to put in place to protect the general school community, not just the comfort of the one diverse struggling individual, and further asked what professional diagnosis would be required before a child transitions socially into the school community. It's now September, and my long friend Tina suggested we needed to do something. So we tried to hold a rally about the program and raise awareness and start with the base for our petition. Well, it was an experience, I'll say that. Some of you experienced some of it tonight. We received, for about a fortnight, a barrage of online abuse, some threats, preceded by a well-organised mob counter-protesting before we were even due to start. So much for our peaceful talks. This noisy group was mostly university students and the professionals who run the ACT Safe Schools Coalition, including Tim Babington and Aaron Smith from Sexual Health and Family Planning and Jenny Atkinson from Agender Agenda. Though vastly outnumbered, our small groups stood our ground and gave our talks, while a crowd of children chanted about various rainbow rights issues and same-sex marriage, none of which was actually the subject of our Stop Safe Schools rally. Some of our groups spoke to the Safe Schools Coalition members after the uni students went back to school. All they had was a web address to offer us in the way of answers to our questions. This was further confirmed by our email, with Safe Schools Coalition ACT insisting that they do not speak to students or provide resources, and all they could give me at that point was their web address. Before the conclusion of the 2016 year, we had at least 2 government schools attempt to bring in Safe Schools style learning with the cooperation of Safe Schools Coalition members. In at least one case, school leadership were unaware these youth sexuality sessions were organised, or that access to medical services was to be made confidentially available to young people in year 8 and 9. In both cases, the sessions were discussed when the parental permission slips were handed out, with children told if they or their parents object, then they must be homophobic. And this was 2 different schools, so it's not an isolated incident. At the end of the 2016 year, my daughter's school still did not know if gender would be presented as binary or fluid. And they couldn't tell me until they did some training and decided over the Christmas holidays. There are all sorts of social messages being pushed on our children, but Safe Schools gender theory can cause real and unnecessary confusion at an already vulnerable and chaotic age. It has the potential to cause long-term emotional and even physical problems if they're encouraged to go on hormone blockers and things. And they tell us that hormone blockers are safe. I'm sorry, they do not know the effects on the developing brain. They do not know the long-term effects on bone density. There are many, many questions on hormone blockers, let alone the other things that they do. We need to talk to others, and we need to stay strong in our objection to this agenda in our schools. These are our children. It won't just stop. They brag about having over 15,000 Safe Schools trained teachers. It's in the curriculum if they choose to use it. So we need to remain vigilant and visible. Tell your school that you object. Demand transparency about materials and methods that will be used to teach your child. Talk to your children when you feel they're ready. They are being exposed to this through peers and the media. Discuss the theory because they will hear the terms and they will be curious. Help them get the right answers. Confusion is a normal part of growing up, and as parents and concerned citizens, we need to stop those who would manipulate our children for their own purposes. Thank you.
That wasn't an easy talk. You can see that she's been through a lot of emotional ordeal over all of this. And lots of other parents are going through it as well. So thank you for your courage. Really cool.